which the Vinnies were involved in, which was also yesterday, speaking about practical advocacy and stuff, where there was a rally by single parents on the steps of Parliament House, which our National CEO, John Falzon, was addressing. And that was in response to the current federal government reducing the income support for single parents when their child turns 6. So they fall from the single parent pension back to the unemployment benefit, which loses them.
Because their child has turned 6,
yes.
and they no longer have to care for their child.
Well, no, you bailed. We don't agree with
Send
it.
the
We
child
don't
out to work.
You're off to school. Now your kids are off to school. You can go out and work. Therefore, you should be on an unemployment benefit rather than the single parent pension.
Okay.
That is a difference of about $100 odd dollars or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I would say that would be the way to deal with the additional people in the house. You give an additional payment.
Yeah.
And then as the costs fluctuate because of housing, housing stock could be really bad housing stock or whatever, well then the concession would deal with the difference between energy costs of living in a flat like you guys do, or a house like I do, or so you're in the you're in the city power area for electricity, which you've got cheaper prices than for me because I live in the Gemini area.
Really?
Yeah. There's not postage stamp pricing for electricity in Victoria.
Oh, really?
I don't understand how that whole utilities thing works. This is the first time I've ever had to pay bills. And it looks like we've only... Yeah, it is. And I feel like we don't have any choice. It's just you have to have electricity if you want to live in society. And you know what? I'd like to live alongside my family and friends in society. But I have to live the way that they tell me to live, which is I have to buy my electricity from you guys. And I have to buy my water from you guys. And you set the price and have no choice about it.
You've got a slight choice, a tiny choice.
Like
you can
what?
choose. Well, when I rang up I did a check for all the prices of the power and everything, and Australian Power and Gas was cheaper than Origin and all the rest. So you have a slight choice.
I can help you guys practically. Okay, all about listening. If you jump onto, I see you've got the laptop.
Energywatch.com.
No, don't go there. Don't go there. Go to the independent place, which is vinnies.org.au/energy, and in there's a whole lot of spreadsheets.
Really?
Which you put your post. I'll drive you there. We can do this right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is
Vinnies.org/energy.
/energy. Okay, and hit that, and you should be on click, by the way. Australian Power and Gas.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm thinking of business names here. It depends on your consumption level, but our little... so what do you got there?
Vinnie Energy.
Energy reports.
Yeah, go into there. Yeah. Scroll down. Sorry, this is really boring for people that
don't have any visual...
it would be boring for people who probably live at home with their parents, but people who don't...
if you guys are listening and you've got a laptop handy, jump in Vinnie's Energy Reports view. Yeah. And if you scroll down, keep going... see these workbooks, spreadsheets? So Queensland energy prices, Victorian energy prices. So you're looking for electricity market offers?
Yeah.
Click on that. Now that then opens up an Excel spreadsheet. Should have downloaded an Excel spreadsheet.
I'm on a Mac.
I'm
still trying to figure it out.
Go to downloads.
Oh,
there it is. There you go. Okay, so
open it.
Oh, you don't have Excel.
I don't have Microsoft Excel.
That's what you
so
should
how
do.
does
You need to download Excel.
I don't have anything.
Oh no, you don't have Excel.
So look, when you get a chance and you want to fiddle around with it, download that. A spreadsheet will come up.
Okay.
You then go to the city power and basically you put your consumption level, grab your last bill, put your consumption level, the number of kilowatts in, and it'll calculate the cost for all the market offers.
Oh.
You
don't have to call up and
no, and
listen to their
so this is something that I provide as practical advocacy. What we say, It's not really for people to use, but it's more for people that are helping other people to. So if I were doing the Vinnies were doing a home visitation, and a conference happened to have a laptop that was quick to sort of get on the net, with a little dongle or whatever it is. Yeah. Well, then there's somebody's got some utility problems. Well, they could go to here and say, well, look, I looked at your bill. I reckon you should consider go across here better. So, and some of the analysis we did around that, you can save $350 a year. Now that's big dollars for people with low incomes.
Definitely.
Big dollars for me.
Yeah. So have a look at that. But again,
energy is one of those ones. I was living in a one-bedroom unit by myself in South Yarra, and I think every quarter it was just coming in at like 250, 270 to 300 a quarter, and I'm like, this is outrageous. It's just me, and I'm not doing anything. And now last one we got was like 220. So, I mean,
We try
two
not to
people,
use
we
any
sort of
more.
like, well, I can deal with that at the moment, but...
You'll find...
plus carbon tax is just coming in too, so...
Yeah, they've probably fixed up the fixed charge quite a lot. And flats, you're probably... I know you're dual fuel, so you're all day rate as well. I mean, there's a number of different tariff designs. So you'd be on what's called the flat rate tariff. You're paying 2 supply charges.
Yeah.
Your gas bill's coming every 2 months. Your electricity's coming every 3 months.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me.
So anyway, so we did a concessions report, which looked at energy prices and concessions, and basically it found that Victoria's pretty good.
Yeah.
Horizontal and vertical equity seems to the financial shock absorbers adjust as people's situations change. South Australia was the worst. Basically, they get a flat $165 a year. And while that might sound really good, what it does is it actually overcompensates low consumption households.
Sure.
So if you've got really low consumption, you get a lot of concession. But if you've got really high consumption and therefore high bills, which are the ones that are going to be in strife, and probably the families, they actually get less than a single person living in a deficit somewhere.
Yeah.
So we're sort of saying, well, look, that doesn't have the vertical equity that you'd expect. And some people would say that's a good thing. And sometimes you'd design a concession to do that. But we'd say, look, the concession should be energy, because it's an essential service, should be proportional to your consumption. So as a result of that, and the article in the Australian, there was a discussion in South Australian Parliament yesterday talking about to review and revise the concession. I had a phone call from the Queensland government. They want me to come up and have a chat to them about their concessions. Their concessions are a bit odd as well. They give a concession to everybody who's turned 60.
Right.
Which means billionaires get the concession.
What?
Because they're 60.
Everybody who turns 60.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, it's an age. It's probably historical because it was state. So there's a lot of these historical concessions that people that made 60, 50, 60 odd years ago, getting to 50 was pretty old.
Yeah, definitely.
People died younger.
That's right.
So getting to 60 was, well done, you've worked really hard all your life, you've paid your taxes, and you can still see it today in the seniors card.
Yeah.
So the state has a seniors card which will get people free into the library or the zoo or whatever. So that's a historical anomaly probably for Queensland.
That's a good point. But isn't the point of it though that they're retired and they're not working anymore? Like if
you can
most people are retired
at 60, you've got a bit. The retirement age for men is 68 now.
Really?
Yeah, it is. I think
it's going up.
58 or something.
No. You can choose to retire. You can get your super post 55. But you probably haven't got enough saved up to be...
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
You can get your super at 55.
But you can't get your age pension until you're 68 or whatever it is. So,
68?
So there's...
That's old.
So you're going to be working for a long time. Just
right,
find a job you like doing.
Yeah.
I had to say you won't be at the council till then.
Not with that attitude. You better perk up, mate. Get involved.
And that's
trying.
Yeah,
it's a lifetime worth of bills too.
Isn't it?
God, all right, let's change tax.
So that's an example of looking at concessions, which is a financial support for people that can't pay gas and electricity bills. That's one. Another one that we're doing tomorrow, which should be in the Herald Sun tomorrow. The article's done. It's just a busy news day today, so I've held it over. We'll look at changes again in electricity pricing, and we've found that there's been a 40% increase in fixed charges. So that you can switch off all you like, but because the fixed charges have gone up so much, it makes no difference to your bill.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
That might be.
But they have to do.
Why are they doing that?
Some companies have done it more than others. I think it's because the energy consumption's fallen. Which means they've got to get
what we wanted,
that
really.
That is so awful.
So we've gotten what we wanted.
But you have to put the fixed charge up because they still need the money.
So if their product is
shareholders,
if they're selling less of the product, they have to put up their prices so that they can keep the amount of staff or whatever, keep their profit margins going, rather than just realizing that perhaps their product isn't as popular as it used to be.
Well, we're talking
and
about
they need to just
essential service you can't not have.
No, I mean, I'm talking about if it's changing over to solar power and all that sort of thing, they need to...
No, well, it's two things. Like if you change to solar, the input costs are more, so the cost goes up. And what happens also is the regulators will say, see the poles and wires out in that street, that beautiful view of that pole and wire that you got.
That's
So the cost for that don't change. So what happens is when there's less consumption, you have to put the price up to maintain.
I think I'm talking about
the capex and opex.
If let's say there are more houses going up with solar panels on the roof, so the house is a bit more self-sufficient. rather than, I'm not saying solar coming from the house itself, will eventually get to the stage where the energy company will need to go, will either need to A, go out of business, or B,
no, never.
Well, I mean,
why not?
Why?
Well, no, because
Why not? Because what about night time? There's no sun then. Need energy.
But we'll have good batteries by then.
But at the same time, you've still solar is an addition to the generation.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. It's still all those kilowatts. It's just a different way to generate electricity. All those kilowatts still need to whiz around in those poles and wires. So there's still a cost to it.
Definitely.
To running the system. It's like the road network. Basically, that's the road network. You can have a road and lots of people on it. If it was a tollway, the tolls would theoretically go down. But if there's less people on it,
but if you've got solar coming from solar panels on your roof, you don't need to have energy running around. Yeah. It's just in your house.
Well, yes, but it's actually this is a thing called load factor. So I'm boring people now, but there's this thing called load factor. So if you've got solar, think about your energy consumption curve.
Yeah.
So what will happen with solar is before solar, you might have had a curve that looks like standard deviation curve. It goes up and then down. And then solar comes in, it'll just go flat. And then when the sun stops shining, it's all of a sudden it goes bang.
Yeah.
So what happens is your solar will run and it'll probably kick in here if you have panels there, it'll probably kick in at about 2 in the afternoon and run flat out until about 6 at night.
Yeah.
And then it would switch off. So when you come home at 6 at night and the panels don't work, you're switching all your appliance on. So your capacity is still, your load factor, your capacity is, you're still at the top of the peak of the curve. You might use less, but the height is the same. And it's the height that they have to build all the backup plan for. So you'd still have to have the generation plant in the valley.
But you're assuming that they don't have any storage of the energy.
They don't.
But I think that's an assumption there that will soon not be relevant because we'll figure out a way to store this energy.
That's the holy grail of electricity.
It definitely is, yeah.
But we do have a little bit. So what they do sometimes is they pump water back up into the dams. So that's one way to store it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
so and then they let it go again.
Yeah, so you run
hammer it back down.
Yeah, so what they'll do is... So there's lots of ways to store energy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're clever human beings.
So what you'll do in off-peak times when the brown coal plants are venting steam, because you can't switch the buckets off.
Yeah.
So what they'll do is they'll say, we'll use the excess power that we've got to pump water back up into the dams, and then when peak time comes, we'll let that water out. So store, pumping water is one way to store electricity.
That is actually.
Anyway, boring.
But no, it's similar to like we're talking about how you have to pay for, because like when we go, Queensland is flooding at the moment, and they should never have to pay for water again for the next decade, because they're never going to be in drought for another decade, because there are so many dams there that are going to be chock-a-block. But the system's got to keep going.
Alright, they can pay us, like you said, to upkeep the poles or keep the parts of the water flows through, but don't pay me to consume water.
Well,
don't make me pay. So,
Anyway, so we start talking. Are you sure you don't work for an energy company and you're just stuck in here? No, that's good.
Well, see, one of the things is, essentials are really important. So gas, water, electricity, housing, and food. I suppose they're the basics.
Sure.
And so that we tend to spend a lot of the time looking at that. You mentioned homeless before we switched on the tape. You mentioned homelessness, and that's a big issue for the Vinnies.
Absolutely.
We've recently again on the website there, I just had a student placement come in, and we had a look at poverty and international students, which was a real eye-opener for me. Yeah, one of the stories that's coming out of the...
They would have all the money.
No. One of the stories that's coming out of the conferences is what's hotbedding for international students. So you'll see students where there'll be, say, a 2-bedroom flat, and you'll have 6 people living in it.
Yeah.
So and they'll hotbed. So, one will be working during the day and the one will be working at night, and you sort of do that. So one of the things is we looked at that about international student poverty, and particularly the one we looked at was the ones from China. But we've heard stories from people from India
and wherever, even Southeast Asia.
One of the issues we picked up is they were being exploited at work. They were getting paid below minimum wage.
Really?
Yep. They were also they're a student, but they can't get any of the concessions.
Yeah, right.
So they have to pay full price for everything, full price for public transport.
Because they're not a citizen.
Because they don't qualify. So there's all these.
How do they get over here?
Well, what'll happen is
pay for uni.
Parents want the best for their kids. They really do. So what these parents are doing is they're screwing